While to kick.
Perfect. Okay, well, good morning, everyone, and welcome back to NextWave. Thank you all for joining us on your Saturday morning and for the second core training session, which is incredible that we've already come around to the second one. It's fantastic to see some of you joining us from last week as well with the excellent session with climate analytics. And for those of you who weren't there last week, I am Sophie O'Donoghue. I'm the Gender and Climate Resilience Associate for UNFPA Sub-Regional Office for the Caribbean. And for anyone who is not familiar with UNFPA, I'm sure there are plenty of you who are, so I will keep it brief. But UNFPA is the United Nations Sexual and Reproductive Health Agency. We work to ensure that every pregnancy is wanted, every childbirth is safe, and every young person's potential is fulfilled. So across the Caribbean and around the world, we work with governments, communities, and young people to advance gender equality, strengthen health systems, promote youth leadership, and support the collection and use of data and better decision making. So through NextWave, we wanted to create a space where young people can explore the connections I just spoke about between climate change, between vulnerability, gender, health, and data, while developing innovative solutions for their communities. As I said last week, the most important part is that this is youth-centered and you are the heart of the initiative. So today we move from understanding climate challenges facing the region, which we looked at last week with Sasha. We now move into understanding how to create tools and how to use what is available to us in addressing those challenges. And that's where data comes in. So today's session has been designed and to be practical and accessible, and to build your confidence and introduce some of the tools and approaches that we can use to help strengthen your ideas. So as always, we encourage you to ask questions and to contribute your thoughts. And now, before we begin, I'd like to briefly introduce our fantastic facilitators who are here giving up their Saturdays as well. And that is with Women in Data Science Trinidad and Tobago and TTLAB. So these two organizations are helping to strengthen data literacy, innovation, and technology across Trinidad and Tobago and the wider Caribbean. I will leave the in-detail description of the organizations to the team themselves, but leading this session is Dr. Letitia Addison. She's the founding ambassador of WIDS Trinidad and Tobago, an award-winning educator, statistician, and researcher at the University of the West Indies. Her work focuses on data science, responsible AI, climate resilience, and sustainable development. And she is joined by an outstanding team of contributors. We have Dr. Chris Manohar, who's a researcher and senior member of the TTLAB Data Science Group. We have Leslie Ann Jurawan, who's the founder of the Agante Foundation and advocate for STEAM education and opportunities for women and girls, and Kavita Jatan Singh, who's a researcher and GIS specialist whose work focuses on geoscience and data-driven risk analysis. So we are incredibly grateful to have all of you volunteering your time and expertise to support NextWave. And I now pass it over to you, Letitia, and the WIDS team. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sophie, for the introduction. And we are really, really happy to be here this morning with all of you, just to share some knowledge and also get some feedback from you all on what you are building for this competition. Really happy to see how many of you have invested your time and effort into the competition, and we are here to help. So first of all, thank you very much, Sophie, for the introductions to myself and my team members. At the Women in Data Science Trinidad and Tobago organization, we are actually part of a global chapter which was started at Stanford University in 2015, which has grown to have ambassadors of local chapters in more than 100 countries worldwide. So I'm very, very privileged and grateful to be leading the Trinidad and Tobago chapter. And I will tell you a little bit about WIDS TT, as we call it for short, first of all, and then also give you a little bit of an overview to the TTLAB Data Science Group, who we also have as mentors and contributors and researchers in our WIDS team as well. So let me just share my screen and I will just show you our website just to give you a quick overview of what we do. At WIDS, we actually support a lot of these types of events where it's a lot of outreach. Hopefully everybody's seeing my screen, right? And I will drop the link in the chat. So it's widstt.com. So we support a lot of outreach. I'm just scrolling so you can see that we have a lot of different events that we host, hybrid events, webinars, seminars, forums, etc., where we feature work, or in this case, we actually assist with giving persons data literacy and data science literacy knowledge in terms of tools that they can use, not just for women and girls, but also for the boys and the men who support them. So we have various workshops. We have a lot of different interactive and collaborative events, such as what we're doing now with the UNFPA team. And we also assist with competitions as well. There's a global data challenge that happens every year through the WIDS Global Organization, and we assist young persons like yourselves or any data enthusiasts who are interested in having skill sets to be able to use that in these competitions and beyond when you actually get into your careers. So I'm sharing it in the chat for you so you can have a look at our website, see some of our outreach that we have done over the years. We have done a lot of outreach in schools across Trinidad and Tobago, primary and secondary schools. We have done some regional outreach through the CARICOM Girls in ICT, with reaching Guyana, Barbados, Jamaica, and all various countries that participate in those events, and also globally as well, because we host global workshops. So we're really happy to have you all on board. And I really wanted to mention this as well, because we have a set of resources. We will mention this at the end of the session today as well for you. For the purposes of the fact that you all would have a short session, today is just 2 hours to cover some of the content related to data-driven solutions. We have a really nice handy resource hub. So I will link this for you in the chat. And eventually when you go on our YouTube channel, because this links to all our resources on our YouTube channel, you will be able to see some actual playlists for different starter packs. So last year we had a competition for students who were in FCA writing secondary entrance exams, and we had a little starter pack of videos to understand what data science is, etc. And we basically just curate data playlists for persons who need the tools and resources to be able to get started. So I would encourage you to keep this link handy. And you can also visit our YouTube channel. And as I mentioned, by the end of the session today, we will give you that link again so that you can subscribe to the videos, and there will be a specific playlist for you for this particular competition. So really, really happy to have you all as part of this team that we'll be mentoring. And I wanted to mention, because this is a collaboration, Women in Data Science Trinidad and Tobago also collaborates with TTLAB, and I'm also part of the TTLAB research group. TTLAB itself, let me just get that site for you as well. Show why it's not coming up here. I will drop this in the chat. Is a local data science. I don't know if anybody has ever heard of TTLAB. I'm not sure if any of you have. If you have, let us know. If not, and you could tell us in the chat where you're from as well, which countries that you all are calling in from today, so we can have an idea. But TTLAB is a Trinidad and Tobago research. I know it has lab in the name. It's not a physical lab. It's like a computer, a virtual lab, if you want to call it that, with researchers, where we look at different local, regional, and even international problems, challenges, and actually understand how to deploy practical solutions. There are more than 100 researchers or alumni as part of the TTLAB system who have passed through, did conferences, etc., presented work, which has been very, very fruitful. Some of them, I don't know if one of them is here, Mindy, would have done some work in agriculture to create an app. And that is also on the WID's website as well, if you want to see a little bit more about how she would have done that with her team for agriculture. And there are a lot of other solutions that TT Lab has drawn on over finance, banking, engineering, and even an AI and climate data science a research group that I am also a part of, where we're looking at an AI for SID solution. So I don't want to take up too much time, but there's so many things that you could hear about when it comes to TT Lab. And I would say personally, myself and I think Chris, I don't know if Dr. Manu has in the room, but we are both very grateful to TT Lab because our mentor, Professor Hossain, who's the director, he is the one who really has been inspiring us to help inspire you. So we're really happy to be a part of this team. And there are a lot of publications and different things that you all can see when you visit the site. So just wanted to give you all a little context as to who we are, the WIDS TT Group, as well as the TTLAB Data Science Group. And we're really happy to be in the room today to be able to assist you with your competition. So with that said, I want to actually introduce my team. I know we have Leslie Ann in the room as well as Kavita, and they will come in and we will be doing a joint session. So Leslie Ann is here and Kavita, right? You can see them on screen, and we will be giving you an idea of how to approach some of the work and that you'll be doing with respect to the challenge. So I will hand it over to Leslie Ann to make that introduction. Leslie Ann, take the floor.
Hi everyone, I'm Leslie. So I've taught math and IT here in Trinidad and in Japan, and other things for about 10 years. And I've also done a lot of work with chocolate and cocoa and working with the women in data science. I'm always happy to help out. It's always such a great experience, and it inspired me really to start my own nonprofit, the Argante Foundation, and to empower girls in STEM and STEAM by exploring paths and that you might not really usually think of when you think of STEM. So right now we're following some amazing local women in cocoa and chocolate and the science behind all of that. So if you're deciding what subjects to take in school, in Cape or university, please check us out on YouTube or Instagram at Argante, Argante. And I'm really happy to get a chance to share with you and learn from you together today about data. Thank you.
Hi everyone. I'm Kavita Jatan Singh. I'm a consultant that uses data to assist in making decisions, particularly in digital transformation, as well as I have a background in geoscience as well as GIS. I'm currently pursuing an MSc in data science at UE. So I've been, utilizing the skills that I've gained through that program and through TTLab to assist in my work and hope to impart some knowledge on you guys.
Okay, so I'm going to try and start sharing my screen, guys. I hope everyone is able to see it at some point. I'm going to also do it as a slideshow. Can I have some confirmation that you are seeing the title of today's
Yes, we can see your screen. Thank you, Leslie Ann.
Thanks so much. So let me make sure that I can see my screen. Okay, so you heard from your today's speakers, and I'm Leslie once again, and I'm happy to talk to you today about data. So, just give me a second here to make sure that we are able to move to the next screen. So Give me 1 second. Great. So by the end of the session today, you should be able to understand some data science fundamentals. I'll be talking to you about that. I'm going to try and keep that to 30 minutes. And we're going to explore some open source data tools, some sources of that open source data, and create some basic visualizations. And you're going to see Kavita design a data-driven concept. And we're going to be preparing for your pitching ideas. Just give you a little help in there. And we're happy to answer all your questions in the Q&A at the end. So next, so I'm just going to jump right into it. So data is any facts, figures, observations, anything that can be recorded or stored. And processed, later gets organized, given context, analyzed, and that's how it becomes information. But I know you knew that. So now that you know that I know that you know that, let's just start thinking about the types of data you might encounter in this challenge. So I'm going to drop a link in the chat right now. And hopefully you can see that. And if you follow that link, there's some instructions that you can use to classify some examples of data you might use in this challenge. Just drag and drop them into the right category. And when you're done, you'll get a secret code and paste that secret code into the chat to let me know that you're finished. I'm going to give you about 1 minute, starting now. Go.
Leslie, can you repeat the instructions again one more time? Just in case.
Sure. There's a link in the chat, and everyone's welcome to click on it, not just competition participants. Anybody can click on it. So when you click on it, you're going to see data challenge, something that looks like what you're seeing on the screen here. You're going to click the arrow to start the challenge, and then read the instructions, and then start the challenge. Is that okay? If anyone's having any problems, please let me know in the chat. Whoa, you guys are fast. Thank you, thank you. So we have Shreya and Kimberly and Gabrielle and Sophie and Jaden and Kelsey and wow, very good, very good. I'm so happy. So as you can all see, the secret code is all data because it's all data. So I'm gonna go ahead there a little, if that's okay. And this is what you should have found. Sorry, I was supposed to share those instructions before. So you correctly categorize those types of examples of the kind of data used in this kind of challenge into the right categories. So we have examples like hurricane frequency, rainfall records, sea level rise projections, flood zones, all those examples of data. So not just facts and figures, could also be maps as well. So demographic vulnerability, if you've heard this phrase before, you're very smart. So demographic meaning the people, and so populations by age or by gender, poverty rates, youth populations, disability statistics, those are all examples of who lives in the affected areas that you might be investigating in your project. Another example comes from the resources that are available to keep people safe. So locations of different clinics, shelters for gender-based violence survivors, hospitals and evacuation routes. And just remind me, what does SRHR stand for?
Sexual and reproductive.
Whoa, thank you very much. I love feedback. Great. So that's very good because we had to look this up before we started. So thanks for that. So sexual and reproductive health and rights. So the location of those clinics during an emergency, natural disasters and such like that, access to it in your community. That's an important thing to know for an interesting thing for projects. So now that you're thinking about the types of data that you can encounter for this kind of challenge, I wanted to tell you a little bit about primary versus secondary data. There's a different way to categorize or think about data. Primary data is the data that's collected firsthand by a researcher, or like you for your, if you were to survey the people in your class or in your neighborhood, that would be primary data. In this challenge, you're encouraged to to use secondary data, what we're calling the open source data, collected by others, because it's quickly available, but it might have a different purpose than what you wanted it for. And it's because primary data would take longer to collect. So what do you think about costs? Which one do you think is more costly to collect for you, the user? Probably the primary data, right? Because you have to pay people to survey or conduct that survey. So it's more convenient to use the secondary data. So now I just want to show you a video about what data science is. And then I'm going to ask you a question just to check that you were listening. And there's some music, but it's you can read the text on the screen. So don't worry if you can't hear the music right away. Okay, let's watch the video. Hey, so if I can cancel that. No, okay. So, going back to the presentation, hopefully you can see that. Presentation. Are you able to see the presentation again?
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you. Going back into slideshow mode. Great. So based on the video you just saw, can you put in the chat the answer to this question? What's in the blank? Data science is the study of how we collect, organize something, and interpret large amounts of data to make better decisions. Please put that answer in the chat for me. I'll take the first answer, the first correct answer. Analyze, yes. Whoa, you guys are so quick. Thank you so much. Yep, that's the answer, analyze. So, thanks for watching that video with me and for also paying attention. So I'm telling you all this because data is your storytelling tool in this challenge. And you don't have to be a data scientist to use data. A little bit of fundamental data science knowledge will help you make a compelling case for your community. And that really applies to every facet of your life, in my opinion, including this challenge. So the best tools are free and open source, and you don't need flawless data sets to produce meaningful outputs. Data is powerful, and it proves where and who needs climate action most. So that's the purpose behind your project. There was a question asked maybe in the last session, what's the point of all of this? By developing these tools, we are able to put data in and present our arguments for who needs help where in an organized way that allows people who have the power and resources to help to focus on the places that need it the most. So I wanted to tell you a bit more now about just to clarify data science in relation to AI, because you might hear a lot of these terms interchangeably, right? So at its core, machine learning, so AI is artificial intelligence, you know that, right? There's something called machine learning, there's something called data science. They're used interchangeably sometimes, but they are different. And whereas artificial intelligence means smart machines that act and think like humans, machine learning is that subset of AI where we're talking about building mathematical models based on training data to make some predictions. Data science is an intersecting set of all those things, using statistics and scientific methods to extract meaning and insights from that data. So when people say there's been an explosion in AI, AI is taking over, all that stuff, what they really mean there's been an explosion in machine learning. True, AI is still ways off. So statistics, it's just machine learning is just statistics framed, and that's at the core of machine learning, statistics. So machine learning is statistics with hype, and hype, machine learning plus hype is what everybody likes to call artificial intelligence. So AI, AI really is helping recognize patterns and supporting prediction and decisions. So it's enhancing, but it doesn't replace data science. So right now, I'd love to hear some examples of AI in everyday life. So tell me something. What are some examples of AI you use in your daily life or encountered? Anything that you has an AI component to it? Please type it in the chat. I want to hear from you. ChatGPT, yeah. Creating notes. What do you like to use? Which AI platform do you like to use to make your notes, Jaden? That's true, Kelsey. Every time we search something on Google, we have an AI mode that comes up first. Nova AI, I never tried that one. And Claude, Jaden, okay, cool. A co-pilot, thanks. All right, and what you're finding is a lot of them, oh, I don't know that one, Gamma AI for presentations. Oh, okay, cool, thanks. I'm learning a lot, guys. Thank you. So all of these are things that we're talking about, like ChatGPT. A lot of those fall under something called large language models, right? And that also falls under something called generative AI. All of that falls under machine learning and artificial intelligence. But those large language models, the generative AI, they're only as good as the data they're trained on. So I want to know how much of that data or what I want to know what you think. How much of that data do you think has the Caribbean in mind? Because we have whole the data that they're being trained on, right? It's sorry. It involves a large, we are maybe our populations in the Caribbean is maybe 0.06 of the world or something like that. I got some stat like that, again, from AI. So when it comes down to these billion-dollar AIs being trained on data, the proportion of data that is Caribbean specific, that is having specific things to do with our climate, our culture, the way we talk. In the worst case, when someone speaks your island dialect or your regional patois, might be flagged as improper input or flawed input. Or there are whole sections where not the weighting of that data is completely skewed, not in the favor of small island developing states like us. So that's where you come in. Your input in this, your data project here. You are providing the data for those decision makers to help address that deficit, that lack of Caribbean island specific data that AI might be missing, right? Whereas there are climate challenges in the Caribbean that are experienced by us, but are being written by people that don't live here, you know? And so we need to have inclusive and people-centered solutions. So I want to talk about naming the gap. So there in our context, as I said, the exact data that you might want to use in your project mightn't exist yet. But documenting that reality is a core, what you call deliverable. So that's an important finding in itself. Marking that, documenting that as what's missing, explaining why it matters, and thinking about who gets hurt without it, you know, who suffers because they're not counted, figuring out who should be collecting it next, maybe a national level organization. In this slide, you can use this three-part gap analysis, naming that data, explaining it, and assigning it. So that's what gives your gap finding purpose. So be as specific as you can when naming the gap, like flood data and separated by gender. So here we have your data to impact pathway. So this is kind of like a simplified data science workflow tailored to your climate challenge. And it goes from problem definition all the way up to your final pitch. Today so this was section 1. This was the introduction. And now for the rest, this is the structure for the rest of the presentation. You already have your problem that you came up with for your group, right? In the next section, we're going to be talking about searching for your data, cleaning it, and how to use it and how to present it. In the next session after that, you're going to see a problem all the way to prototype. So meaning that we're going to define some problem and show you all the steps and the thinking behind it to get to some output. So think about try and identify what is the problem that's being presented and follow the thinking behind the steps to inform what you can do instead of trying to copy the steps, if you know what I mean. So in the final section, we will talk a little bit about an example of how to prepare your pitch, which is the next stage of this competition. And the important thing I want you to take away is that you don't need a fully functioning app. So you have a well-reasoned map, infographic, or documented data gap analysis. All those are examples of winning prototypes. So my advice is to concentrate on your impact, who you're helping, and how the why behind what you're doing. So we'd like to go on to this next session of finding, cleaning, and visualizing open source data. So I need to change, I'm going to share my full screen now. So hold on 1 second. In the chat, anyone, if you feel, you can feel free to put any questions in here while I'm doing that. Thanks. All right. So for this section, I'm going to ask for some help from Dr. Addison, because Dr. Addison is the professional. So Dr. Addison, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Thank you. So what we do with our data is we're going to find it, clean it, visualize it using open source data. So this is usually the kind of the order in which we go. So using climate change data, we can understand climate challenges that we face in the past and present day. So to find the data, prepare, create visuals, and identify data gaps, first we have to find it. So in this section, we have some examples of open source data. So CARICOM and national stats. You can go here to see, find stats about your country specifically. So Dr. Addison, what do you think I should show first? Should I go to one of these first, the CARICOM ones first?
Yeah, let's show them CARICOM, and then at the end we can probably give them a context to Kaggle.
Sure. Thank you.
And if anyone has heard of any of these, let us know in the chat.
Oh, that'd be great to know. So the CARICOM stats here, this is what the website looks like. Everybody seeing that?
Yes.
Thank you. So we have a quick access to data sets here, view and download. And up here, we also have a data here. I'm going to try the quick access to data set and see what I get. So you see available data sets, statistics by topic and by country. So if you specifically wanted Trinidad, we can go check there. Or economic statistics. So here's environmental statistics. Maybe that's something I care about. So I click there. And here it's broken down further by country. So is there a country that you guys want to see?
We take the first answer. Let's see who's quick on the draw. Which country you want to see in the chat? First answer.
Oh, wow. So fast. St. Kitts it is.
Very good, Gabrielle.
Kitts and Nevis. Ignore that.
I said Jamaica.
That's my little program here. You will see this pop up here when I click on it to save it somewhere. So you save it wherever you'd like. For me, it's going to download. Oh, sorry. I didn't want it to go there. This is supposed to be here. Sorry about that. I'm going to do that again. Hope this goes right this time. And you should see it here if you have Google Chrome. Oh, man. Right? And then you can open it using whatever you have, Excel or whatever you'd like. I'm using LibreOffice, and it'll look like this. So the other option is to save the file and upload it to Google Sheets, if you're more familiar with that or more comfortable with that. And you can check around, and you'll usually see some information by year, and you can identify what they measured, and also what's missing. So you can see they had a lot of stuff for 2011, and then a lot of things missing for some other years, right? Okay, great. So can I close that, Dr. Addison?
Yes, that's fine. Anyone has any questions, feel free to let us know and be happy to answer.
So I'm back on the slides. Hopefully you're seeing that. So humanitarian data exchange. In this slide, when you have access to these slides, you can also click here to get information here. It's a lot of information, very detailed. It's a little bit more complex to maybe. So CARICOM would be my first try suggestion. Then there's something called Kaggle. I heard Kelsey has heard of Kaggle. I'm going to click on Kaggle here to take me to the home page, right? And so you would see a register option here. I'm already registered somewhere else, but let's see if I can use it without Kaggle for a second. Can I use it without registering?
Yes, I believe you can just click on the, let me see if you can click
Go
on
to
the
Data Hub.
page. Yeah,
I'm going to try Data Hub up here. Can everybody see that?
yes.
Okay,
Scroll
so
down.
you can go to Data Sets. And so Kaggle really is a kind of, let's say it's like a playground for data scientists. It's a place where you can practice data science techniques with the minimum amount of fuss to start up, because they have data sets readily available in varying levels of cleanliness. And so you can search around here. So I did a little search to see if they had any Caribbean data. And I found some things about hurricanes, football data, world demographic indicators. So you can find things like that. So anyone you want to look at, does anybody see a good one? Oh yeah, that's a good point. Thanks. Like, so you look out, sometimes they'll tell you if it's something called synthetic data, if it's made up. So you need to look out for that. What's Blue Bot Dataset? Bayesian Digital Creations Incorporated. Let's see what that is. All right, so they're going to tell you about the data set. You have something called a data card here that'll tell you more about it, more the content. You can view more. Wow, time series image data. Wow, pretty cool. So you can see people what code they've done with it, people using Python. And then you can see where to download. See the big and bold button right up here by up at top right. It says download. You can actually just download it like that. And you can choose to download it as a zip or as you like. And go from there. Is everybody okay with that? So the main thing is going to Kaggle and you're looking for something called Data Hub, and under that, data sets. And feel free to search around using the search keys. Good. Is that okay?
I see Tanisha loves this. So I suspect some of you will definitely sign up for Kaggle. And yeah, and you can definitely have it as your playground.
Before I forget, the nice thing about Kaggle too is that there's a learn section that has anything you want to learn about, and even so the courses, like really from the beginning, and they're so nice because they let you try the lessons, like you have a tutorial, and then they'll actually let you try in line here. You can click on some of these things and try run the programs right there. So you don't have to download anything, you know? So it's really exciting. So I encourage you to check that out if ever you're interested in learning something for free. Okay, great. So coming back to here, we have so here's an example of statistical service. For any country, for the country that you're in, there most likely is a government agency that centralizes your statistics for your country. So in Trinidad, it's called the Central Statistics Office, CSO. I hope that's what it stands for, Dr. Edison. So later on, you're going to see an example using the Barbados Statistical Service and a report that they did there. So over here, I had a little tip here that maybe you don't find exactly what you need, but that doesn't mean it's not useful. You can look for something called proxy data. If you can't find direct flood damage costs, for example, you can look at insurance claims or agricultural yield drops to give you a kind of a guess. So working with data gaps, right? The proxy data, when you see proxy data, think related data that we can use to understand the issue or answer the question indirectly. I was supposed to hide this from you, but if you wanted to find data on heat-related illness, right? You can use temperature data or hospital visits. So it's important to remember that you don't need the perfect data. Once it helps you better understand the problem, it can still be valuable to you and your project. So now I want to talk about data privacy, right? So you're encouraged to use open source data, the ones that we showed you just now. But if for some reason, either in this challenge or in any coursework, schoolwork, job-related stuff that you do later on, it's important to understand that when you're collecting data, you have to be responsible, especially when it relates to gender-based violence or other sort of issues during climate crisis. So let's say you're collecting raw individual data, people's names, their addresses, anything that can identify them personally. So we call personally identifiable information, PIIs. But don't worry about the terminology. When you collect that data, the golden rule is to never map or display individual identifiable survivor data. So we have to go through an anonymization process and what you'll hear about later, an aggregation process. So in the case of mapping the exact locations of the domestic violence during the domestic violence calls after a hurricane, that's not what we want to do. What would be a better solution? Can anybody tell me in the chat what would be a better solution to help those affected that would respect their privacy and protect their private information? Please let me know in the chat.
Elsie says mapping the number of calls by area.
Yeah, I like that one. So the area it would be more helpful because that way the services will know which area to focus in on. So mapping the districts that have a shortage of safe shelters relative to their population size, that's excellent. So that's data privacy. Next, we want to talk about when you actually get your data, right? It may not be in a great, it mightn't be the neatest looking thing. There might be missing values. You have to decide what you're going to do with those. Will you delete this whole column? Will you just put in some dummy value? So we need to know what you're going to do about that. We're going to, maybe the formats of your dates are all over the place. This will give you problems later when you're trying to do, to visualize your data. And then maybe there's inconsistencies, like you're writing St. Lucia as ST, SD dot, the whole thing Saint, or so this we're looking for just cleaning up our data so that things are consistent and standardized, and we have accounted for missing values. So clean enough is where you want to be for this challenge because we don't want to spend the time. Your aim is to make it usable as fast as possible, right? Because you have a timeline you're working with. So before you analyze your data, maybe finding the averages of something or whatever, as we said, when we're looking, you can use this slide as a kind of a checklist. Are there any missing values? Are there any duplicates? Maybe it's the accidental duplicate. You have to delete those rows. Are there any formatting issues? Do they need to be organized for consistency? So that's how you make things more reliable. So we want to look at a messy data set that we might be related to our project, our solution in the next section. I'm going to watch a demo of how to actually clean that example, messy data, in Google Sheets. Okay, so I'm going to play that video and let me know if you can hear and see it. If there's any problems with it, just let me know.
Greetings, everyone. Today we're going to do a quick demo on cleaning data and visualizing using Google Sheets. What we're going to do in our Google Sheets environment here, select File, Import, Upload, Browse, select the dataset, press Open, comma, then import data. Now, a quick overview of the data we have here. As we scroll through, looking through country, we can see we have inconsistent labeling here. If we look at districts, we can see some inconsistent spelling as well. And we're seeing some missing values. We're going to quickly clean this up, make it consistent, and remove duplicates. First, I'm going to show you a quick feature where we can freeze the first row. That makes it easier to keep this row in view as we scroll down. Now, if our data is messy, our solutions will be too. What you're looking at is a toy data set tracking flood reports and clinic availability across districts in Trinidad and Tobago from 1999 to 2023. Notice the problems immediately: inconsistent country names with missing values in both flood reports, clinics available, and inconsistent spelling in districts. Capital D compared to common D. Imperfect data can still tell a powerful story, but first we have to clean. Let's show you how in just a few minutes using this free tool, Google Sheets. So we have three immediate problems: duplicates, inconsistent labels, and blanks. Let's tackle them in an efficient order. We're going to remove duplicates first. We want to highlight all the data. So the row above row 1, there is an empty cell. We will select that, and it selects the entire data set for you. We will select data at the top here, search for data cleanup, and then select remove duplicates. We will select data has header row, and then we will select the button remove duplicates. Once that is done, it says 5 duplicate rows found and removed, and we have 100 unique removed. Notice how Google Sheets instantly found and removed the duplicate entries. This prevents our charts from double counting disasters. Now, step 2, we want to standardize the labels, and we will do this with find and replace. If you are on a Windows laptop, you will select Control H on a keyboard, or if you're on a macOS, Command Shift H, and find and replace will pop up. We're going to find Trinidad, and we're going to replace with Trinidad and Tobago. Replace all 79 instances of Trinidad and Tobago were replaced. And then we're going to say T and T, place 17, and say T and T, nothing, so that's good. Then T and T, 4. And then we have our consistent country labels. Let me see this. Looking at row 16, you can just manually update this. District capital D, capital B. Scroll down. And then row 84. Only capital D. And here we go. Now we're going to handle the blanks. You're going to click on data again, and then select create a filter. Here you can see at the top, it has these filter icons. What we're going to do, select this icon next to flood report, select the clear, and then make sure blanks is only selected. That's okay. And you can see here, these are the missing cells for flood reports. Should we delete these rows? Not necessarily. In public health and disaster response, a blank might mean 0 reports filed, or it might mean data was lost. Deleting it hides the truth. So instead, we flag it. We're going to say 0, 0, 0, 0. And then we're going to clear this filter. Select all, and we'll do the same for clinics available. Clear blanks. Here we go. Now, everything is clean and consistent and no duplicates in our data. You can go ahead and visualize the data with some charts. Our first chart, the bar chart, we're going to show total flood reports per district. What we're going to do, highlight everything. We're going to insert a pivot table. So we go to insert and select pivot table. We're going to choose existing sheet or new sheet. New sheet is less messy. So make sure new sheet is highlighted. Great. And now we're going to set up the pivot table. Under rows, we're going to click add, select district. Under values, going to click add and select flood reports. Now that that is set up, we need to make sure everything is configured correctly. Under flood reports, this drop down here, summarized by, this needs to be sum, not count. And now we're going to highlight our new pivot table. Just the district and the sum, and then create a new chart. Insert, chart, and yeah, next. Now, in the chart editor, which you can access by double-clicking on it, we need to make sure in the setup, we have two tabs, setup and customize. Make sure it's set to column chart, and then we can go to customize for the chart and axes titles. We can change the titles to total flood reports by district 1999. Okay. 2023. There we go. Now we have our chart, and the heavy lifting was done via the pivot table. So we don't need any complex formulas to summarize our data. And there we go. Quick demo of how we can use Google Sheets to clean and prepare our data and visualize. That is the end of the quick demo.
Okay, that's it. Was that great? Thanks, Nicholas Smith, for doing that. So we're talking about the creating effective visualizations. There are many types you can make. We just showed you a basic one today. But when you're making a chart, you want to ask yourself, you can use this slide as a checklist. What should the audience notice first? Can they understand the chart without a very long explanation? Does every element on the chart have a purpose? So you have to think about what's more important, being impressive or making it easy to understand. And easy to understand is always the answer. So a good visualization is clear, concise, and easy on the eyes. If a poor visualization does too much. So we're finding relevant, before we wrap up, right? Dr. Addison, should I go through some tools that we can use? I just wanted to, for 1 second, talk about a couple tools, maybe about 5 more minutes. Is that okay?
Sure, yes, that's fine. And maybe we can get the links so we can drop them in the chat so they could also look at them.
Great.
Great.
So what you saw there was an example of Google Sheets. I think everybody's aware of that. Can you let me know in the chat, is everybody aware of Google Sheets?
Anyone has never used Google Sheets before? So we take it everyone has.
I'm going to try my best to share as I use, okay?
Yes,
So
okay,
we just
great.
saw that.
And you could let us know what other tools you have been using. We just wanted to get a context if anybody has no code tools, and then there are also coding tools we could mention as well.
Okay, great. I'm gonna go down to Canva. Have you used Canva there before? So Canva, if you open it up, it'll look like I can open it up now and look, what's this? It's Women in Data Science Trinidad and Tobago resource on how to use Google Sheets from the very basics. If you've never seen a Google Sheet before in your life, and it's so nicely done. So no matter what level you are, don't be shy. We got something for everybody. This is a fun one. So this is a plug that for the resources that Dr. Addison told you about before. But using Canva, you can make presentations, you can make posters, anything you want really. And it all comes down to what you are comfortable using, right? No, I don't want to pay for anything. So you can use, you can check by, you do sheets, you can use code in Canva. Now I didn't know that. You can make websites, and so for infographics and stuff like that, it's a nice place to start as well. And there's a lot of free resources to do that. And there's an AI tool as well. So templates is a good way to start based on what you want to do or projects. Okay, so I think everybody has seen Canva before. Another option, so let's say you want to do some graphs and you don't want to use Excel, maybe you have a perfect data set, it's already clean and everything. There's something called Data Wrapper. Let's check this out. So create you're supposed to be able to create charts here with, you know, a single click. So look at it down here. They're telling you exactly. It's very, very user intuitive, and you can do a lot of different things very quickly and edit it as easily as you can edit a picture kind of thing, you know? So I'm going to drop that link in the chat now too. You want to check that out. And then, so that's for graphs specifically. And then if your solution has to do with mapping some sort of service, right? There's something called Google My Maps, not to be confused with Google Maps. I have a little tutorial here for you on how to use it. And also oops, sorry. Let's go to see if we can check it out quickly. So I try to make something for you really quick here. So you would go to create new map. Create, did I do create? Right? And you'll start with, you know, wherever you are, but you can make it's anywhere in the world. Say I want to make a map of my area, somewhere, San Fernando or something like that. Right? And I want to say something about, or better yet, let's say I have, so I do some stuff with cocoa and chocolate, right? We can grow some cocoa out here in an area of Tabaquite in Trinidad and Tobago. There's hardly any roads and stuff like that. So this is a good, if I want to talk about my access from here, you know, to anything really. Let's say I want to talk about this area, I want to map this area, or some people who are living in this area. I can actually find out where they live, take a little geotags, and or with my phone or something like that, and I can actually just draw things on here, right? So if using this tool, I can make some more points like that, and I can name them like that, right? And I can join them up like that. And then it'll tell me the area and the perimeter of that shape that I drew. So this might be useful in quantifying something you want to say about your community, or some area that you're saying is, you know, affected by something. You can also use this tool to map, like, you know, what is the, you know, the closest amenity to your area. You can click on that like that and close that off, save. And that line, you can tell exactly that, you know, how far the amenity is. So something like that, there's endless things you can do. So I put a tutorial, there's lots of YouTube tutorials there for you, but I'm showing you some tools. But the thing I want you to take away from this slide is not like, you know, don't do like me, get excited by the tool and force yourself to use it when it's not really the right fit for your project. Think about what it is that your output is, what's the best for that output, and also which has the lowest learning curve, which is the fastest for you to learn. Maybe you know it already, because you have a timeline for this challenge. So don't get confused like me and want to try and learn a new tool in a week or in a day or something like that. Judge based on your own capabilities, and judge based on the actual output that you're looking to produce. Okay, so for that, I think in my section, we did the demo. So to recap, we looked at how we can find the data, clean and prepare it, create some visuals, very basic introduction to that, and there's more online, lots more for different levels on the WIDS TT YouTube channel that Dr. Aslan will tell you some more about. We talked about identifying data gaps, and you're going to see more about that in the problem solution coming up next. And you're using the data to support your idea. So keep an idea of what it is that you're trying to support. So the types of output that I was talking about before, here's some ideas. And the point is that you want to take away is that you don't have to be some coding expert. Thinking and local impact matter more, right? Say you can create a risk map. If you want to show where floods hit or where health clinics are located. You want to build a dashboard, meaning that, something with different charts and things to track local weather or community needs. Policy brief using like a Canva post or something, so you can tell leaders and decision makers how to fix a problem. Or you can give a gap analysis report. All those are explaining why those information is missing. All those are examples of winning combinations for this challenge. So next, we're going to go on to the next section. I'm just setting you up by letting you know that the data came from the Barbados Statistical Service, and it's actually a PDF report that you're seeing over here. And the tables come in this format here, so it's pretty clean. What you saw in our example was a kind of representation of what you might see, what the data that was used to compile this report would look like. So keep that in mind as we go into the next section.
Okay, as we make the transition from this section to the next one in 2 minutes, just wanted to find out if anybody has any questions so far, any concerns, before we go into a little bit of a more intermediate application that Kavita would do. Really, really want to thank Leslie-Ann for really giving us her expertise in the initial steps in building your data-driven solution. She has done a phenomenal job, must say. Any questions so far? Any other tools? I just wanted to know before we get Kavita to come in, are there any tools that you use currently? Because I will speak at the end about the AI-based tools very quickly before the end of the session, but I really just wanted to ask in terms of the traditional Google Sheets, Microsoft Excel, Power BI, Tableau, there are so many. Any of them that you all are using or familiar with that you want to tell us? We want to get some feedback in the meantime before we go to the next section. Or if you haven't even thought of a tool, are there any of you in here who haven't thought of one yet to use to analyze data? Jupyter Notebook, nice, Kimberly, very good. See, we have Python. So we have some coders in here as well. Do we have persons using Collab? QGIS, Jaden, very good. What else? ArcGIS also, because well, those two are related for geospatial. What are others using? In the meantime, Kavita, you can start to share your screen. I just want to get a few more. Positron for R, nice, nice. Anybody's using, well, I see we have some coders in here, right? So we're using a lot of our statistical software. Collab, I was going to ask, yes, Google Collab as well. So we have some coders, and do we have any other persons using like Power BI, even Microsoft Excel and Google Sheets? We just wanted to do a very simple demo today, but we have a lot more intermediate and advanced demos that are way longer than this session could have held that we have on our recordings as well. Using even Kaggle, using, well, Kaggle uses both Python and R. What else? Power BI. Are there any other tools any of you all use that we haven't mentioned? So just to let you know that you can, use whatever tools you need to. I see Tanisha agrees with Jadon in the QGIS as well, right? And I'm sure Leslie-Ann would have mentioned a few others that would be useful to you in building your prototype. So I'll pass it on to Kavita now. So Kavita is going to show you a little more of an intermediate side to looking at building or designing a data-driven concept. Kavita, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Dr. Addison. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. So Leslie would have mentioned that I got data, some of the data that I used for this from the Barbados Statistical Service, and it's mostly clean. One of the main facts I wanted to let you guys know that as data scientists, 80% of our time is usually spent cleaning data. So I was very lucky, when I was designing this, that I had relatively clean data. In order to design a data-driven concept, I'm going to take you through a 6-step framework. So Lazian would have shown you 5 steps. And I've added in an additional step called validate. So the first thing is you need to start with a problem. So my problem was, the temperature in the Caribbean has been rising. We have hotter days, and also our population is aging. And how do we deal with that? One of the things that I saw was we can design or we can designate community cooling centers. So this is, where you designate public spaces where anyone can find shade or water and relief during extreme heat. This isn't a new, idea. It's been done before in India. Ahmedabad has, they've developed a heat action plan. Since 2013, they're one of the first cities in the global south to do this. And since they've introduced this plan, it's prevented approximately 1,200 deaths annually. So we're going to go through and see if, this solution can work in, using the Caribbean data. So we have a couple of questions that you usually need to ask yourself, depending on your problem. So, what does the data actually tell you? And which communities would need, community cooling centers the most? And are we missing anything? So I'm going to use data. So in addition to the data from the Barbados Statistical Service, I use data from the World Bank and Trading Economics. These are available online that you guys can access as well for your solution. Before I open the Google Sheet, I'm just going to let you give you a brief overview of what I did. I started with a regional picture, using 8 Caribbean countries and data from the World Bank and Trade Economics. And then I went ahead and combined 2 variables to create something new that would give me insight. It's called a heat vulnerability score. And from there, I let the data tell me, where to go next. Let me just open the Google Sheet. You guys can let me know if you see it, and I'll just make it a bit bigger.
Yes, we do.
Okay. So these are the countries I used, Trinidad, Barbados, etc. And I use data, the average annual temperature from 2023, as well as the percentage of the population that was over 65. Separately, this isn't really telling me anything. So what I did, this is not based on any scientific, research, but I wanted to show how you can quickly combine information to get something new and provide you an insight. So all I did to create my heat vulnerability score for each country was multiply the average annual temperature and the percentage of the population. And from there, Barbados had the highest score of 432. So this told me, okay, instead of focusing on the whole region to come up with my solution, to, zoom in into Barbados. I just wanted to show you, I also created a couple of charts, some visualizations that Lazian would have mentioned in Google Sheets. And, this shows the data better than, a table. So folks can actually, if you look at this, you can see clearly that, Barbados had the highest heat vulnerability score. So now we'd go to the next tab in the spreadsheet, which is the Barbados deep dive. So I got this data, as Laziane would have mentioned, from the 2010 census. And I pulled out information such as, what was the percentage of persons that are 65 years and over, as well as the parishes and the classification of the parish. This particular one percentage, so I had to think about, how would I determine, help do some analysis on my data. So there is a question in the census that talks about, access to amenities like AC and a fan, but it wasn't available online. So what I would have done here is, I mean, if you go to the Barbados Statistical Service, you can probably request it and they would provide you the data, but I didn't have the time to do that. So what I did here was I estimated this from the income levels of the parish. So this is an example of proxy data, which Laziane would have mentioned. And I went through and calculated another vulnerability score. The formula is here if you want to understand it a bit more. And from there, it showed me that St. Michael had, the highest vulnerability score. So I defined, greater than 2000 as critical. Here I created two visuals that show the same thing, mapping the parish vulnerability score against the parish. So I did a simple table as well as, well, let me just make this smaller so you can see it, as well as a map. So which visualization do you think shows the information better? You can put it in the chat.
Laziane, you want to just zoom out a little so they can see both again?
Oh.
I'm sorry, Kavita. Yeah.
Let me just see.
You can zoom out so they can see and then kind of zoom in. So she has two there. So which one do you all think would be one that you would prefer to use? I see Gabrielle says the map. You want to zoom in a bit more now to see they can see it again? Gabrielle, any reason why you chose the map? Like what would have jumped out to you as to what you preferred about the map? Okay, great. So she said it's easier to, the visual is easier to understand, an easier visual to understand. Anyone else agrees with Gabrielle or you have a different view? You could let us know. Shamilia says it's more visually appealing. Desiree says map, visualize and understand is more accessible to different types of users. Excellent.
These are all great answers, and I agree with you guys because my background is in GIS. Okay, so now that we saw that, the parish of St. Michael had the highest vulnerability score, what should we do next? Before I go back to the slides to continue with the presentation, I just wanted to show you an example of let me make it bigger so you guys can see, of a data gap tracker that Leslie would have mentioned. So, you can do this in different ways. I just, because I was using Google Sheets, I just chose to map things into a spreadsheet to keep track of, what data I used, and what was missing. And I also sort of, gave it divided them into different tiers. So tier one was secondary data, it exists and I can access it online. Tier two was it's also secondary data. I mean, the data is there. So for example, the percentage of the population that had access to an AC, it's there, but I can't access it. I may have to request it from, whichever body has the data. And the final tier was, there's no data set that exists. So, this is an example of primary data where, the data would have to be collected. Let me just go back to the slides. You guys are seeing it, right?
Yes.
Okay, so last week Sasha showed you guys why disaggregated data matters. And, what I just did, it shows you where it matters. So we went from, a regional level to a national level. But okay, so we figured out that St. Michael is the parish in Barbados to focus on to determine, if our solution of setting up community cooling centers, would work. However, but now we needed to go into the community and determine, where should we locate these community cooling centers? Where are the elderly population located? And what I would have found was there isn't really any open data sources that was available. So this is a gap, and I would have included that into my data gaps tracker. And I mean, what would be the solution, if for you is, you may end up having to either, well, collect that data yourself or, sort of advocate whichever body or NGO to, help you collect that data. So basically, from what I did, I mean, what the data told me so far was, okay, we know the temperature and the percentage of the population that's over 65 by parish, and we estimated the AC access from the census. I also found online, locations of buildings that could serve as cooling centers, like, for example, libraries or government buildings. So I had that data. And as I would have mentioned, I don't know, where the folks over 65 live and, other nuances like who lives alone. So the last box here is, things that we would need to focus on when designing the solution. And, mapping or taking note of these data gaps are very important. So this was, at the end of the day, the proposal, the solution I would have chosen to do this was a data-driven policy brief, to maybe propose to the government of Barbados or CARICOM. I have a question for you guys, based on what you saw, do you think this proposal will work in the Caribbean? So, I mean, I know I told you that this worked in India, so having, community cooling centers, but do you think something like this would work here in the Caribbean?
Desiree says, yes, we are melting.
Okay, but I told you that I was designing it for folks that were over 65. So do you think your grandparents would use something like this?
Kelsey says she worries about how the centers will be maintained along with safety. Yeah, That's a good concern. That's a very important concern, Kelsey.
Yes, these are all good concerns. I'll just give you guys another minute or so. I see Lazian put an answer. How do we get them there? So these are all concerns, about proposing this. It sounds like, a good idea, as well as, it's been proven it's worked in another country, and actually in India, a lot of other cities have been adopting this idea. So I wanted to move
before you
on.
go on,
Yeah.
Desiree actually said for the population, I know technology isn't easily understood by the elderly. So that's the initial concern she had based on what you mentioned, the elderly population. Kelsey also said some elderly persons may not have access to transport, possibly a community shuttle system.
So that's great. I had thought about that as well. So one of the things that I would have included in my brief was, well, maybe we can have mobile community cooling centers. Yeah. Okay, so I wanted to go on to something else. Human-centered design, right? So human-centered design, it puts the needs and behaviors of the people that you're designing for at the center of your solution. And it allows you a chance to check your assumption. So, I would have told you, I just assumed, I came up with that solution because, it worked elsewhere. And I assumed, it would work here. I'd just like to play a brief video on what is human-centered design. It's about 2 minutes.
Human-centered design is a creative approach to problem solving, one that starts with people and ends with innovative solutions tailored to meet their needs. When you understand the people you're trying to reach and then design from their perspective, not only will you arrive at unexpected answers, but you'll come up with ideas that they'll embrace. Human-centered design is both how you think and what you do with it. It's a process that consists of 3 phases: inspiration, ideation, and implementation. The inspiration phase is about learning on the fly, opening yourself up to creative possibilities, and trusting that as long as you remain grounded in the desires of the people you're designing for, your ideas will evolve into the right solution. In the ideation phase, you come up with lots of ideas. Some too crazy to work, some too crazy not to try, and you'll refine them, tossing out the bad and improving the good. Making things helps you learn, grow, and test your ideas. Building a simple prototype gets your idea tangible and gives you something to put right back into the hands of the folks you're designing for. Without their input, you won't know if your solution is on target or how to evolve your idea. Keep iterating, testing, and integrating feedback until you've got everything just right. During the implementation phase, you'll build partnerships, shore up your business model, and get your idea out into the world, which was always the goal in the first place. Anyone can practice human-centered design, and everyone benefits, because it gets us all to solutions that are adopted and embraced.
I mean, one of the main reasons why human-centered design was created is basically 95% of new products tend to fail because, it's not really designed for people in mind. And, we've been applying this concept to solutions that we would come up with. So just to summarize and human-centered design in terms of, for our challenge, you basically need to go talk to people, right? Yeah, even though, there are open data sources that can help you, refine your solution. At the end of the day, it's being designed for people. So you need to actually go out into the world and speak to them. And from that, you may have to refine your problem and solution. And you don't just assume that your solution will work for them. And then one of the things that human-centered design focuses on is, testing and iterating. So in our context, this is a pivot where, you may find out that your solution, while it may be a good idea, it doesn't actually work for the people that you're designing for. That's not really a failure. It just shows you that, the process is working. And I mean, human-centered design focuses on iterative and iterations and feedback loops. So, you continuously, uh, you know, check in with the persons that you're designing for and have them, test your solution, and you would refine your idea until, or sorry, your solution until, it's ready to be put into their hands. Another part about human-centered design is, it tells you, I'm telling you, you need to go talk to people. But something that you need to understand is, which people are you talking to? Who's actually in the room when you're designing your solution? Leslie would have mentioned earlier that, the LLMs like ChatGPT and Claude and things like that, they haven't really been trained on Caribbean data. So, sometimes when you get answers from them, they may not be relevant to you. So you have to ask yourself that when you're designing your solution and using your data. So, who is really missing from your data? If you don't, if they're not counted, it's not because they don't exist. It's because, we never thought to ask them. And from there, like who is missing from, when you ask the question, who is missing from the conversations, you can think about it through, different lenses, in terms of things like sex, race, where people are located, income levels, and things like that. And one thing you should note is generally the most accessible persons in your target group, normally they're the least vulnerable. And, this points back to, what Kelsey is saying, right? Some elderly persons may not have access to transport, to go to the community cooling centers. And I would have missed that, if I didn't go through this process of talking to the persons that I was designing for. So I just wanted to show you an example of human-centered design in practice. So, when I went through the data and the spreadsheet, it told me, St. Michael is the parish in Barbados to focus on. And, now I just needed to go into the community to validate, if that solution would work. Since I couldn't travel to, Barbados, I used the next best thing. I asked my mother if this was a good idea. And, who better to tell you if your idea is good or bad than a Caribbean mother. But, I can't just speak to one person, right, to validate my idea. So what I did was I went to, my mother is a part of the Golden Members Club. That's a part initiative that's done at our local library. They meet twice a month. So I was able to go in there and speak to persons to determine, if my idea is a good idea for the Caribbean. And, I deliberately made sure that I spoke to different types of persons, at the group. I spoke to elderly women living alone, elderly men, persons with disability, persons with chronic illnesses, people who had family at home with them, residents of a home for the aged, etc. This is, an intersectional sample, and I didn't just interview, persons over 65 as a single group. And, based on what the folks told me is that elderly women said, they won't leave home alone and that, it's not safe in the heat. The men who were there, I mean, they were much smaller than the women at the meeting. And, they told me that they rarely go to the library. Usually they tend to lime at the bar or, their local recreation ground. Someone with mobility issues said, a cooling space needs to come to her. She can't walk it. And I mean, someone would have mentioned that. And, I would have said, I was thinking about having a mobile community cooling center. So, and, one of the things that came out of those conversations, is something that I didn't expect. And, it actually came from my own mother. So my mother at home, she has, AC and things like that. We installed that for her, especially when the place was getting hotter. But she actually told me there that, she doesn't really use the AC. To her, she finds, it burns too much electricity, and, electricity costs are very expensive. So what she told me is, when we're not there, usually after lunch, our neighbor comes over and they just sit in the veranda and drink Moabi or lime juice, and they play cards or, chat until it cools down enough for her to go about, watering her plants or start dinner. And she also told me, that, when we're at home, the neighbor doesn't really come over because she doesn't see the need. So this was, a eye-opening, a light bulb moment for me, is that, there's already a solution that exists. It's the veranda, the neighbor, the social connection, shade, having a cool drink. So the gap wasn't a building like, having a community cooling center. The gap was really this network that, the persons that are over 65 tend to have that is invisible and unmapped. And, it sort of disappears when circumstances change. So, my mother would have mentioned that they never wouldn't come over when myself and my siblings are at home because, there's no need to come over because my mother has company. So this is, human-centered design at work. What we discovered here is one solution, the community cooling center, doesn't fit all. Gender, ability, health status, living situation, all of these will shape what we. And, I told you I had made sure that I included different people. So I had a diversity of answers, a diverse set of answers to help shape my, solution going forward. And this is why that step I added in, validate, is very important. And, it's something that you shouldn't really skip. One of the things that I would have collected as well in my conversation would have been things like personal information, such as names and locations and contact information and whether they lived alone. And I mean, in a country like Trinidad, that's not something you really want to share, with persons. So, before I would have used any of this data going forward, I would anonymize it. And I mean, if it is, I still would do a policy brief for this. And if I shared it with, the government, they may want information like, well, who are the percentage or who are the persons, living alone. So if I was going to share their locations and information and things like that, I would seek their permission before doing so. So in the, let me just go back to it. So in the spreadsheet that you guys will receive is a concept design canvas, right? And we don't have time to go through this, but you can do it for homework. You can apply it to your problem to ensure that you guys are going on the right track. So I would have put in things related to the problem that I was solving, and you can use that as an example to help you. I'd like to turn over back to Dr. Addison, who will give you guys some advice on pitching your proposal.
Okay, thank you very much, Kavita. I know that was quite a interesting, intense, but also very informative, I must say, part of the session. Anybody has any comments? Because the hardest part for me right now is following both Leslie-Ann and Kavita. I think they covered everything so well, right? And I have to be very short with what I'm going to say to you now for the sake of time, but definitely really happy that they were able to give you those contexts. Do you all have any questions before I jump in? Because I am actually going to just basically speak to you about two projects that I have been, two teams that I was on for the past few years, where we won two different challenges, related climate challenges, one regional and one international. So that will hopefully give you all some ideas and context for your pitches, and hopefully some inspiration as well. Because I know we're short on time and I really want to leave some time for questions, at least probably 5 to 10 minutes. I'm going to try to achieve this within probably less than 5 minutes, maybe 5 minutes tops. Before I start, I'm just going to share two important video links for you. So if we don't get to go through them fully right now, I will actually have you review those, and they are in the chat. I will share my screen so you could just see these slides, so I can quickly just talk to you about pitch prep. Do note, however, that I'm just talking from my current experiences with some of the competitions, and I do note that you all have specific guidelines to follow in terms of this current competition. So therefore, I would have you all make sure that you follow the guidelines set out. I'm not sure if you're seeing my screen. It's saying loading. Is anyone seeing my screen? Let me stop. Is it showing up?
Still loading. Oh,
Still
there
loading?
it is. We see it.
Okay, excellent, great. So pitch prep. Now, I'll first start off. There are two competitions that I really wanted to talk to you about that I was a part of, and really both of them were centered around climate-related challenges. One of them, the most recent one, was in 2024, and this one was based on a global AI innovation grand challenge, which looked at climate proposals, basically for using AI-based solutions for climate resilience in least developed countries and small island developing states such as ours. So I led a team of researchers from the University of the West Indies, who incidentally were also part of the TTLAB Data Science Group. And we were able to come up with a solution. And in this particular case, it was just a proposal. So we also had to do a pitch. It was quite an intense process. I'm very grateful to say that we were selected at the end from, over 100 proposals from over 60 countries. And in this particular proposal, what we indicated is that we should have a climate platform, a platform where you can actually, I'm not sure why the video is not showing up here. So let me just stop sharing. For some reason it's not showing up on that end. So I'm just going to speak it through from this angle. So I'm not going to play the video because we don't have time, but I'm actually just going to let it play in the background while I speak through some of the aspects of this pitch. So this was actually a proposal for a climate resilience platform. And what we did is that we wanted to actually showcase in the solution that we had base the context. So of course, Leslie Ann and Kavita would have told you that you have to basically speak of the context in terms of why you're building your solution. So you have to make that very clear. I would actually advise you to be very quantitative about it. So you could see I would have indicated in this solution about the GDP losses, and it was an early warning solution for our SIDS Caribbean islands, because here we do have traditional early warning systems, but they need to be advanced. So in our solution, we spoke about using an agentic AI-based system. And this particular system, what we would have done is we would have had an actual platform, and I can actually give you the platform. We actually demoing that. Remember, Kavita mentioned just now, I was thinking about designing with the persons who need it. So in this specific space, what we're doing is looking at bringing variables like information with respect to satellite data, with respect to climate level variables, temperature, precipitation, all of these different impacts specifically related to floods, looking at the social context in terms of what's on the social media pages if people are experiencing floods in their area. And what we want to do is bringing all that set of data into one platform. We actually have a demo with some stakeholders here in Trinidad where we're looking at the disaster management professionals first. So I wanted to make sure that you understand that you have to think about when you're pitching, who is the specific audience? In Kavita's case, she spoke about the elderly persons and she spoke about how these would impact them. Be very specific about that particular audience that the tool is for. In our case, this solution really supposed to serve the community overall, but we recognize now that going from the proposal pitch to actually going into building this out, which we are doing, we have to be very specific in the phases. And I mentioned this because when you have to indicate, I know there is a $3,000 amount that you have to actually let your pitchers know when you actually do the pitch. For those of you who will come down to that specific part of the competition, you have to be very clear about how you're going to outline how you're going to use this specific funding. So in our case, we are actually doing this in a voluntary manner, but we have a budget as to what we would need in terms of computing resources, in terms of, I know Kavita mentioned, if you have to go out there and if you have to collect surveys and do these types of things, you may need persons to go on the ground. So you need to indicate that, because remember, not all of you would actually be going and doing surveys right now because you may not have the time, but you are proposing what you can do and actually showing from the data that you get online what the gaps are, as they mentioned, and what is needed and where you come in. So that has to be very clear. Now, in our solution that we have right now for this particular specific platform, what we want to do is to really increase the real-time monitoring. So what we would have pitched is that we need an AI-based solution to increase the actual time from the impact hitting to the action taken, because a lot of the disaster professionals, while they interact with each other and they have spaces where they could, understand maybe allocation of resources to a specific region that is actually maybe flooded, and really how they allocate maybe hospital resources, maybe shelters to different areas. We need to speed that up because sometimes it happens very slowly, and then the persons who are mostly affected don't get those resources in time. So for us, the pitch here was really to tell persons that in our space, we really need to have something that is designed. This is a picture of my team, some of the TTLAB members, and this was the original team. It has grown to double the size now. And we really wanted to let them know that in our pitch, we see this as something that is investable, something that you could actually collaborate with governments. And imagine we actually are collaborating currently with our Ministry of Public Administration and AI to build this into a use case for flood risk. So we went from the proposal stage to actual implementation. So the last thing that I wanted to say about this, because as I said, you can show in your solution, okay, so what is the problem? What is the ask? Maybe what is the data, what you can provide. But what's going to be different from other people who are doing similar things? Remember, a lot of us have similar tools. So what we did in our pitch is that we said, okay, these are some of the snapshots of what we want to provide on our dashboard. Some of you may be able to provide some of that as well. You could see this is a snapshot for how we expect to integrate real-time AI-powered weather alerts using large language models to integrate with live weather systems that are tracking these particular maybe flood impacts or whatever is happening in the community that is of interest. And then, of course, we wanted to showcase that in the end, it has to be something that can scale. So for us, we had to show for this country-specific information, which is Trinidad in our case. We basically show some snapshots like for the specific users and what that would look like. And then, of course, really tell them in a tangible way where it is that we could see this going further. So for instance, in our case, let me just go back to these slides. What that means is that we would need to actually think about scalability in terms of what are we doing and is it something that we could accomplish? So I know sometimes when you propose something, you would want to probably have, be a superhero and take care of all of these problems at once. But I will caution you as a project lead for some of these types of projects that you recognize when you want to actually pitch to people that we could scale this. It has to be something that's doable and measurable. So you see how Kavita showed you all a sheet, a template that we will share to track and see how you will accomplish those various aspects. That is super important. So we will share those resources and you will get the links for the specific aspects of the videos, etc., to help you along. And I know Sophie and the team at UNFPA will also provide you. Some of you would have probably already have looked at the rubric and then the context for, eventually when it narrows from the current number of teams down to the 8 teams who will do the pitches, etc. But my advice to you is when you're doing all of this at the end, when you want to come to the pitch stage, you have to think about how you want to fund this. How many aspects would require resources from different ministries, maybe technology solutions where you need to understand what does that cost, and if you're using existing data, if you need to collect more data. But I would say keep it at a level that could be accomplished. And then, of course, in your pitch, you can say how it can scale to different countries. And that's where you have to be imaginative, but also understand that that also comes with a cost. So I just wanted to give you some key takeaways, just because I know we're close to time and we have about 2 minutes. It's just to think about it when you are going from doing your data analysis and collection using your different tools to actually presenting your pitch. You really want to be mindful of keep it simple at first in terms of looking at the small scale solutions, the existing data that you are using and realistic constraints. If you need to use proxy data as well to show what you want to accomplish, that's fine. I believe for this competition, you don't necessarily have to build a full prototype. You may be able to show the different snapshots. So some of you are more advanced and you could probably do that part as well, but be guided in terms of the guidelines. And then focus on the real world impact. Use data responsibly. I know some of you will use AI tools to assist you along the way. Although I lead an AI and data climate resilience group, I just want to mention that we are very, very mindful that AI tools have to be used responsibly. And Leslie Ann mentioned in terms of the Caribbean data and training on our data, we have to be mindful of when you put in persons, you can't put in persons' names and locations and these things. Kavita also mentioned, you can't put these things into these open source tools or like ChatGPT, etc. I know some people take chances with the paid versions. I know people do that. Please, 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 please do not do that. That's not a good practice. So that's where we have to be mindful of what the technology that we're building and then how we are presenting that, because we don't want to put persons at risk. And at the same time, because I'm a statistician at heart, I'll tell you, you don't want to also bias the actual results of the specific solution as well. Because sometimes it can be biased, as you could see a lot of the actual solutions that are out there. Some of them are more biased towards the global north. So we have to really try to build more solutions now that are really homegrown, right? Focus on the real world impact, use the data responsibly, and I know Kavita mentioned designing for the people. So that's it. I know we are on the nose of 12 midday, and I don't know if anybody has any questions, but I would like to pass it back to Sophie and just let you all know that these are some reflection points. We will share the tools with you all, and we will also have some sessions where you can actually speak to us in office hours about your solutions. We will let Sophie know so she can also let you know when we have those office hour sessions. and mentor sessions, so to help you along with your solutions. And we would really like to thank you all today for being a part of the session. Our WIDS YouTube channel will have a special playlist for you as you go along to be able to build your solutions. So I'm opening up the floor for questions, and I will pass it back to Sophie now. So if there are any questions anyone has, I know it's been a packed session, but I hope it's been informative. Sophie, back to you, and let us know if there are any specific questions.
Thank you very much, Letitia. I do want to give the floor to the youth if everyone does have time to see if there are any questions. And after we've done that, then I will close off the session. So everyone, I highly encourage you to take use of this massive opportunity to speak to these amazing trainers live. So please do go ahead and ask any questions.
I have one question for anybody who wants to answer. Have you all built any solutions? I know some of you were mentioning tools that you use. So has any team or teams built any prototype solution yet? Where are you all in the phase of what you are doing? Anyone wants to let us know? Maybe I can call on someone. I'd hate to be the lecturer calling on students. Let me ask Tanisha, would you care to share? I know you were speaking earlier in the chat. I'm just calling a few names who mentioned earlier. Or is it that you don't want to share because other teams are in here? That's fine as well. But just wanted to know if anybody is in a design phase, collecting data, or if people are building tools. Initial phase, just started, Trinidad, and that's fine. Planning phase, Gabrielle. Okay, interesting. That's great. And y'all can be in different phases, and that's okay. So don't feel stressed out if you feel like you're not where you want to be. And please understand, if it feels too easy, then you probably need to ramp up what you're doing, because I feel like if you're not asking yourself enough questions, you're not feeling stressed out, then you probably need to think, okay, can I elevate this a little bit more? So, thinking about it and really overthinking sometimes indicates that you're on the right path, because you want to be very critical of what you're doing. Right, Tanisha said she is running process of research idea. And I will say procrastinating still in the process. And that's okay. All of this is part of it. So I want you all to be okay with feeling like you still trying to understand. And that's what we're here for, because we have all gone through this. A lot of us are researchers, and we really, really want to help you along so that you could build the best solutions that you can. Because we don't just see this as a competition. I think this is a training ground for you all to go on and build solutions. You're already youth, you're already the future generations for the Caribbean. And this is really, I really want to really thank UNFPA, Sophie and her team, for this very innovative challenge and really bringing in, like, it's in a regional context. We're really happy to see that you all are supporting the cause for the benefit of the region as you go on. Designing a data dash, very good, Jonathan. Very nice. I'm glad to see that you all, and I know as one thing I also wanted to mention is that even though I guess it's a competition, feel free to also reach out with each other, because remember, as I said, we are Caribbean people in the end. So at the end of the competition, I really want you all to also make friends and really understand what each other is doing as well. This is part of it. That's how we all get to know each other. And I think one of UNFPA's goals, as well as ours and WIDS and TTLAB, is really to have a community space where you feel safe and supported, right? So I'm really happy to hear that. Anybody has any burning questions? If you don't necessarily want to ask the questions now, just know that Sophie will mention to you all when we do have our office hour sessions, which will be some themed sessions. You could come into rooms with us to speak, and we will also chat with you on Discord as well. I know you all are on the Discord platform. To see, if you'll need any help in those phases, if you're in the data phase and you need some assistance, if you're building your prototype, or if you're even just looking at how to even start, that is also something that we are here for. So Sophie, I'll pass it back to you if there are no other burning questions, and just know we all here to support you in this journey.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. So We have come to the close of our second session, and again, we'd like to give a massive, massive thank you to Dr. Letitia Addison, to Dr. Chris Nanoha, to Leslie Ann, to Kavita, and to the entire WIDS and TTLAB team. I don't want to miss out anyone, but today has been so insightful and engaging, and definitely even myself, I have left knowing more about data than I did before. So thank you very much. I think it has really been helpful in demystifying data as well, making it seem less scary. It's something that is really useful and helpful and is an essential part of this challenge. So thank you for taking us through that. As Letitia mentioned, of course, it is a competition, so we also understand if you don't want to share your ideas with the other participants, but we do really encourage that you engage with each other, that you use each other as well if you are stuck or you need help. The mentor sessions will be explained more clearly in detail, so look out the use information pack that we have given you access to when we first joined NextWave. We will be constantly updating that information pack. So please do keep your eyes on that, because as we move into the mentorship phase, we will provide more information on that. And of course, we will update you over email and using the WhatsApp group chat as well. But as Letitia mentioned as well, the Discord is a great sort of facility that you can use. So please do make sure that you have registered onto the chat through the Event Tornado site to make sure that you do have access to that. But we will go into that more when we move into the mentor phase. So again, I'd like to thank our incredible trainers, and I'd also like to thank the participants. Thank you all for joining on your Saturday and for engaging with us through the chat. It's been such an insightful session, so we are very, very grateful. We will let you know about the next training sessions, and we will share all of the resources that have been shared with you already today, but we'll share it in a more formal way again, so that you can have that easily accessible. And I'm trying to think if I've forgotten anything else that I wanted to mention. One more note, which I will also remind you over email and WhatsApp, is that we want you to document your process throughout this journey. So, after training sessions, if you want to do like a quick video clip to say how you found them, what you learned, please start doing that, so that at the end of the training session, we will reach out to you and you can share all of those little clips or briefs or write-ups, and we can document and showcase your journey throughout the process. Again, there will be reflection questions. So there will be the Google form shared at the end of this session, and we need you to fill that in. We encourage you to fill that in because it will give you points towards your attendance and your overall score during the proposal phase. And I think that is everything, unless someone has questions. But again, I would like to ask everyone to please, if you can and if you feel comfortable, open your cameras and we will take a screenshot just to document our second session. Okay, I can see Leslie Ann is ready. Wonderful. Has anyone else going to turn on their cameras? I will give you a few moments to do so in case you were in your pajamas or in bed. Anyone else? Surely one of you will please
Chris, Kavita,
share.
I'll put my team on the spot as well.
Okay, Kimberly, yay, thank you. That's fantastic.
No one else, Daria? I'm trying to call you people video. Anyone else? Calling out
Okay,
Jonathan, nice.
Jonathan as well.
That's okay, Shanta. Kavita, I'm seeing you.
Kavita's back.
Excellent.
That's wonderful.
Shamilia, I see you coming on.
Your hair is a mess. Okay, we don't mind.
Shamilia, your hair looks great. Oh, and Chantal, yeah, Chantal, no, come on.
Okay,
We'd love to
great,
see you.
great. Now I have to figure out how to try and get everybody in one screen.
Oh,
Okay,
here is Chris.
great, there's Chris. Thank you.
Chantal, looking great.
Wonderful. Thank you, everybody. Okay, it's going to take a few moments. So I'm going to screenshot the first page that I see. Everybody smile. Okay, first page has been taken. And now I'm going to go to the next page. Everybody smile. Okay, great. Thank you very much for doing that. And again, thank you very, very much to the WIDS and TTLAB team. You've been fantastic. And we will be in touch about mentorship and the next live session as well.
Thanks, everyone. Take care. Have a great day. And you all are most welcome. Thanks, Sophie. And thank you, my team.
Bye, everybody.
Take care.
Thanks
Bye.
again.
Thank you so much, Leslie Ann.
It was really fun. Thanks for having me.